This is the 30-year-old, very rusty wheel carrier of my Mercedes 190e. This is the exact same part. The difference you're noticing is done by sandblasting. Sandblasting is used to clean up rusty parts, and I came across it when I was looking for a method to clean up the rear axle of my Mercedes 190e. There are two options on how to get rusty parts cleaned up: bring them to a professional to blast them, or build a sandblasting cabin yourself. I did option 2, and here is how it went. Before I start the build of the cabinet, I'm removing the bushings from the rear subframe. Here, the hydraulic press I built in the last video comes in very handy and makes a great job. Okay, they challenged me a little bit, but now they are out. Perfect. Also, because this wheel hub, the wheel carrier, the axle and this arm here are in very poor condition, I'm gonna disassemble the whole thing. Mainly because this bushing here is completely perished and destroyed. Let's go. Hey, you are on the video as well now. This power tool was a very good investment. Love it. If you're thinking about buying an impact gun, I can really advise you to, because it makes things way easier. I wish I had one in the beginning of the project, when I was disassembling the whole subframe. This here is what I mean by bad bushing. Now we have to press out the wheel hub and then the wheel bearing. Let's go. This is the destructive method of removing a wheel bearing. But this isn't a problem, because I'm not planning to reuse an old bearing when renewing everything else on the rear axle. Removing big circlips like this can be really annoying. Now I'm also removing the outer race of the wheel bearing. These bushings were fighting me a little bit, but they couldn't resist 5 tons and a bit of heat. I'm now at the point where the whole subframe is completely disassembled. Here you see the parts. They are really rusty, very bad condition and everything, and I don't want to assemble them like that again. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build a sandblasting cabinet to blast all those parts and to make them beautiful again. For material, I'm gonna use this plywood here. I picked it up for free, which is really nice. As I do with most of my project, I made a cut design first, and then I knew what I had to build. Right now, I'm making the inner frame of the blasting cabin. Honestly, at this point, I really underestimated how much work it will be to build this thing. Sadly, it started raining, so I had to move inside again, but I think it's gonna work just fine. Okay, so the frame is finished and I can start cutting the panels. Let's go. Okay,
ladies and gentlemen, I'm done for today. I was able to create the two side pieces and the back piece of the sandblasting cabinet, also the frame. What I need to do now is create the front piece and the funnel on the lower part of the sand cabinet. To do that, I'm gonna have to adjust the angle of my saw. There is some scale on my saw, but it's not very accurate, so I need to create some templates so I can get the angle of the saw right to create a nice meter. I'm gonna do that overnight.
In those situations, having a CAD software and a 3D printer comes in very handy. Because I made a CAD design of the whole sandblasting cabin first, I knew what angles I need, and I quickly printed them overnight. This way it was super easy to adjust the angle of my super old circular saw. Okay, I finished all the pieces for the funnel on the lower part of the cabinet. The aim was that all the sand that's landed in it is going to run down and into a bucket or something, so we can reuse it with the blasting pistol. Okay, first of all I'm gonna do some cleanup because it looks like a mess in here and I don't want to keep working in that pile of wood. There you go, everywhere is wood. Yeah, after cleaning that up I'm gonna do a bit more cutting. I'm gonna have to make some holes for my hands and my gloves on the front piece of the blasting cabinet, and also I have to make a cut for the window so I can see what I'm working on, and also I need to make a cut for a connection for the vacuum. I think that's it. Another small time lapse for you. Let's go. Okay, let's start by drilling a hole for this piece here. This is the connection for the vacuum cleaner. I thought I can attach it and then all the dust will get sucked out of the cabin. Anyways, to mount this, I'm gonna have to drill a hole here somewhere and then I can mount it with a bunch of screws. That's the plan. Let's go. The vacuum is also really important because we have to create a negative pressure inside the cabin, so all the dust will be sucked outside and through the filter of the vacuum, because this dust is very unhealthy and you do not want to breathe it in. Now I'm cutting out the door out of the one side piece. And yes, I really need a proper workbench. Because we want to let as little air as possible inside the cabin, I'm creating sort of a lip that will mount on the door from the inside. This will act as our sealing surface. I have a little problem. I spontaneously installed this piece and this piece of wood here to give the whole construction a bit more strength. The problem is now that this part and this part are interfering, so I have to cut this inner frame here, and there to make it fit again. Finally, after putting on the second side piece, the whole wood construction finally starts to look like a sandblasting cabin. Okay, another afternoon, got a bit of time, gonna work on the sandblasting cabinet. The back piece was a bit short, so I have to use this piece of wood here to fill in this gap here. I think I'm gonna mount it here and maybe put another piece of wood on here, and I think that should be good too. Let's go. I realized that I also have a staple gun, so I decided to fix the piece of wood with that. So now that the backside is finished, I can move on onto the door. I mean, I did most part of it already, but now the question is, how can I secure the door in here, make it openable, and how to seal it properly. I haven't thought on it much, but I just went in the workshop and saw what I could find for materials. I found these bicycle tubes and I thought maybe I can like fold them together and then I can put them in here like so. And then if I close the door is gonna press against this tubing and it will act like a seal. For the opening and closing of the door, I found these in the workshop. These are like door hinges that you can separate. I think I'm gonna use them once, of course, as a hinge for opening and closing, and for locking the door in place once it's closed.
I think I'm gonna mount it here and here. And if I mount this piece on the frame here and this piece on the door itself, I can meet it together when I close the door, and then I can put in the pin and the door is secured. Yeah, let's try it out, see what happens. If you maybe realized already, it's a low budget build, so I can't use the most beautiful solutions, but as long as it works with tools I have lying around. Alright, the door is almost finished. I can open it, I can close it, and I can secure it with those pins here. Perfect. What I'm gonna do tomorrow is putting on the seal I showed you earlier, the tube of the bicycle. Until then, good night. Now I'm mounting the bicycle tube as a type of seal against the door. This will prevent most of the air leaks, and as a result of that, the air pressure inside the cabin will be as minimal as possible. Okay, after installing the sealant, I could still close the door. I ordered these gloves online, they came in the mail today. I will be using them inside the sandblasting cabinet to mount them. These pieces here were delivered with them. I can mount these on the front piece, and then I can put the gloves here around it and secure them with this adjustable ring here. And then when I want to work on it, I can just put my hands in here, just like a usual sandblasting cabinet. For the roof, I'm also using glue and a staple gun. To see what I'm doing inside the sandblasting cabinet, I'm obviously gonna need a window. So I'm gonna use this piece of plexiglass here. I'm gonna cut the hole into the front panel so I can mount this on top of the cutout section. Let's go. Okay, now that the hole for the plexiglass is cut, we can continue by gluing and screwing on the front panel. Let's go. Okay, I'm just about ready to put in the panel with the holes cut out for the gloves as well. On this side it lines up pretty good, but on this side there is a huge gap down here. I'm gonna have to see what I can do about that. After installing this piece, I just put another piece of plywood against the gap from the inside, which made the whole thing shut. Okay, wow, this thing actually looks like a sandblasting cabinet already. Yeah, I'm pretty happy how it turned out so far. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna flip the whole thing, and then I'm gonna mount the funnel, which will be very challenging, but yeah, we'll see. Let's go. Okay, I just started piecing together the funnel. At some points it doesn't line up perfectly, so I might have to make a few adjustments. It's probably not gonna be the most beautiful funnel ever made, but that's not the aim here. The aim is that it's leak proof, and I think it will be that. So let's go. Especially with the angle of the saw, it was very hard to cut a straight line because I didn't guide the saw. Because of that, the cuts were a bit wobbly and a bit wavy at some points, so it wasn't very easy to piece the funnel together. Okay, so I also fabricated this piece of plywood here. This is for the lowest part of the funnel. I'm gonna glue and screw it on here. The hole is for this long tube here, which I can attach here. And then I can attach the container for the sandblasting material on the tube, and also I can put the pickup of the sandblasting pistol through here into the container as well, so the sandblasting pistol is able to pick up any material. Okay, I'm gonna start by putting this on here, and yeah, let's go. Okay, I made some legs as well. Now I'm gonna mount them. Additionally, I also fabricated this piece of plywood here and two more for the sides as well. I'm gonna screw them on the rear side of the legs and also on the side to give the whole construction a bit more stability. Otherwise, it will jiggle around very much and we don't want that. So let's mount them. The plywood I got from a local packaging company. They were gonna scrap it, so I got it for free, which is pretty nice. If I had to spend money on the plywood, I would not use it to stabilize the construction. Okay, the cabin is now on its feet. It's very huge. I made it a bit too high. I can't really look in there. I underestimated the height of the rolls I put under it, because if I stand on top of this plywood here, then it's fine for the height. So I have to lower it. To lower it, I'm not sure. Maybe I loosen up these screws here and just put the whole thing lower. Yeah, I'm gonna have to see how I do that. But I'm very happy with the outcome. It's very, very stable. All four rolls are on the floor, which is good. Yeah, very happy with it so far. Let's continue. Okay, so I took the cabin off of the base construction and cut the legs off here, so it will be lower once I assemble it back together. While the cabin is down here in this position, I sealed off all the gaps real quick. So I will let that cure overnight, and then we can put the cabin onto the base construction again. So see you tomorrow. Alright, the cabin stands again. Now it's lower. Now it's the perfect height for me to put my hands in and to look through the window, so that's really nice. I also patched up this gap here. I just put a piece of plywood from the back and screwed it and glued it in. Now what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to seal off all the gaps in there with like something like silicone to prevent most of the air leaks. I'm totally aware that it's not gonna be 100% air leak free, but that's fine, I think. I actually never did silicone joints before, but this is the perfect opportunity to practice them. I certainly do not want to practice them in my kitchen or in my bathroom or anywhere, because this would look very bad. Okay, since today is one of the nicest days yet in the spring, I decided to paint the blasting cabin. I'm gonna do that because I don't have that much space in the workshop, so it's gonna stand on the outside maybe a little bit. So I don't want it to start rotting right after finishing the project, and also it will look better, I think. Let's go. I found some super old window paint in the workshop. It's definitely not the color of my choice, but I'm using what I have lying around. Okay, I'm done painting. Pretty happy with the outcome. There you go. The whole thing is nice and green now. I'm gonna let that dry overnight, and then I'm gonna start mounting things like the gloves or the connection for the vacuum. See you tomorrow. Have a good night. Okay, after sealing all the gaps up, the next step now is to paint the cabin from the inside. I'm using white paint, and hopefully it will look good. Let's go. I chose white paint because the visibility inside the cabin will be maximized because of the light reflections. So I had to pause the project for a little while because I had to do some studying. While I was studying, in my free time, I created this metering valve here. This metering valve replaces systems like this, where you put the piece of tubing into the sand and use the pistol to pump it up. The problem here is that often you have a problem with the mixture of air and sand, and it will not work properly. After reading a lot on the internet, I found out that this metering valve here is a way better solution. Of course you can buy them as one piece, but I decided to make my own because I had a few materials lying around. This will mount on the lower part of the funnel like that. While I'm blasting, all the sand will go down into the funnel and into this valve, and it will be pumped up through this back into the pistol of the cabin. I also installed this bolt here, which I can screw in and out to adjust the amount of air that will be sucked into the valve. By that I can adjust the mixture between air and sand up to the optimum. I'm mounting the metering valve by screwing it on the lower part of the funnel. Also, the 3D printed connection part for the vacuum is being mounted. The next step now is to make a window frame to see what I'm doing while sandblasting. And once again, because this is a low budget build, I'm using a bicycle tube to seal off the window from the window frame. Now I'm also mounting the window frame. I'm doing that by inserting rev nuts and mounting it from the inside.
It's not seen very good on the video, but the gloves are actually inflating. That means that there is a vacuum inside the cabin, and that means that everything is airtight so far. Now let's put some sand in it and try this thing out. This is the wheel carrier. As you can see, it's super rusty and it really needs some attention. But I think we might have the right tool now. As you can see, the blasting is working pretty well. Honestly, it could be a bit faster, but I think with a bit of fine-tuning and variation in blasting material, it will get even better. Right now, I'm using slag for material. Because of all the super sharp particles flying around inside the cabin, the window will get cloudy at some point. But because I don't want to replace the whole window all the time, I put some plastic wrap around it, so I only have to replace the plastic wrap once it gets cloudy. And here's the result. It's fascinating that it looks like this if you think how rusty it was before. I'm really happy with the outcome and it was definitely worth it. Okay, Project Sandblasting Carbonate has come to an end. It took way longer than I initially thought, but that's how it goes. It's a lot of fun and it's very satisfying to blast the parts. The next step will be though to paint the parts. This I will not show in this video because this video is already very long, but the next one will be about that and how I put the subframe back together. If you don't want to miss that, maybe consider subscribing, and if you like this video, maybe leave a like or a comment. Thank you so much and see you in the next one. Goodbye.